The late afternoon sun filtered through the airplane windows as Captain Olivia Carter finished her pre-flight checklist, her sharp gaze scanning the cabin. A veteran pilot with a reputation for efficiency and authority, she approached her job with the kind of precision that left no room for error or excuses. As she moved down the aisle, her presence commanded attention, though she hardly spared a second glance at the passengers settling into their seats. To her, they were just names and seat numbers. But in seat 17A sat someone who was far more than just another traveler, though she worked hard to appear otherwise. Lena Taylor, in her early 30s, with a quiet confidence that spoke volumes, had chosen the window seat as her sanctuary. Dressed in understated elegance, Lena looked like any other professional heading to a meeting or a weekend getaway. Few would have guessed she was the daughter of Jonathan Taylor, the enigmatic founder and CEO of Skyline Airways, the very company operating this flight. Lena had spent years carving out her own path, eschewing the privileges her last name afforded. Today, however, her commitment to anonymity would be tested in a way she hadn't anticipated. Olivia stopped mid-aisle, her sharp eyes falling on Lena, who sat gazing out the window, seemingly lost in thought. The seatbelt sign above her head blinked insistently, unheeded. Olivia's lips pressed into a thin line. She strode over, her authoritative tone cutting through the cabin noise. "Miss, the seatbelt sign has been on for some time. Kindly fasten it now." Lena blinked, startled from her reverie. She turned to meet Olivia's gaze, her expression calm, though her composure masked an undercurrent of irritation. Without a word, she reached for the belt and secured it. Olivia's stance didn't soften. "Next time, I'd appreciate it if you followed instructions promptly. Safety isn't optional." Lena's lips twitched in a faint smile, one that held no warmth. She simply nodded, choosing silence over a confrontation. Olivia moved on, convinced she had addressed the matter. Yet the encounter was far from over. Moments later, Lena discreetly pulled out her phone and typed a message to her father. "Dad, I had an unpleasant run-in with the captain on my flight." Her tone was unnecessary. "Just thought you'd want to know." The text landed in Jonathan Taylor's inbox as he was finishing a late meeting. His sharp eyes scanned the words, and his expression darkened. Jonathan was not a man who tolerated disrespect, particularly toward his family. Within minutes, he began making calls, setting wheels in motion that would soon catch Olivia in their wake. As the flight progressed, Lena leaned back in her seat, her serene exterior unchanged. She wasn't one for drama, but she knew her father well enough to predict that the situation wouldn't end here. Meanwhile, Olivia carried on, oblivious to the brewing storm. When the plane touched down in Miami, Lena stood gracefully, collected her belongings, and walked toward the exit. Olivia stood near the front, her professional smile firmly in place as she bid passengers goodbye. But when Lena approached, her poised demeanor sent a shiver down Olivia's spine. Lena paused, her gaze steady. "Captain," she began, her tone calm but cutting, "do you know who I am?" Olivia blinked, caught off guard. "I'm sorry, miss," she said hesitantly. "Should I?" Lena's faint smile returned. "I didn't expect you to. I'm Lena Taylor. My father is Jonathan Taylor, the CEO of Skyline Airways." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "Today, you reminded me why I've spent so long stepping out of his shadow." The color drained from Olivia's face as the realization struck. Her earlier brusque behavior replayed in her mind with painful clarity. I apologize if..." Lena raised a hand, silencing her. "I don't need an apology. What I need is for you to understand that every person on this plane deserves respect, not because of their title, but because they're human. What you did wasn't about safety. It was about judgment." With that, Lena turned and exited, her words hanging heavy in the air. Olivia stood frozen, the murmurs of departing passengers barely registering. That evening, Olivia's phone buzzed relentlessly with emails and calls. One subject line stood out: "Urgent meeting with Skyline Management, 9 a.m. tomorrow." The next morning, Olivia sat in the corporate office, her stomach in knots. The door opened, and Jonathan Taylor entered, his imposing presence filling the room. He wasted no time. "Captain Carter, let me be clear. What happened yesterday was unacceptable. Olivia swallowed hard, prepared for the worst. But Jonathan's tone shifted. My daughter doesn't want you punished. She wants this to be a lesson for you, for the entire airline. Respect isn't optional. You'll be undergoing additional training on passenger relations, and this incident will serve as an example of how we can improve. Relief mingled with shame as Olivia nodded. She left the meeting resolved to do better, humbled by the quiet strength of a passenger who had taught her a lesson she would never forget. For Lena, the matter was closed. She trusted her father to handle the fallout, not for retribution, but to ensure lasting change. And as the story spread through Skyline Airways, it became a reminder for all. No one is above accountability, and respect must always take flight.